I had decided to cold smoke salmon, and as long as I was cold smoking the salmon, I said, why not cold smoke some of the tuna that I have? Well, the tuna that I have is blackfin tuna. I had caught on La Pesca a couple months before, and in this particular case, I'm using a couple of loin cuts and belly cuts. Out of a blackfin tuna, you get four cuts, two off of each side, one off of the upper back called the loin, and one towards the belly. And that's what I'm using here. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting them in a dry brine. So first I rinse them off, taking them, I had frozen them, and I'm going to dry them off so that they're not too wet. And then the brine that I'm using is a half kosher salt and half brown sugar. Now I've seen also plain brown sugar or plain sugar, always kosher salt, never with iodine. The You can also add spices and things like that. Now I ended up with way too much for what I'm using. I had a cup of each. Probably could have done with half a cup of each, or maybe even less. But I followed some of the guidelines from the Alaska Fish and Game, and so my brine, fish takes brine pretty quick. I was following a salmon recipe, so it was on the brine, the dry brine, for only about an hour. Salmon, they said 45 minutes or less. This is a little bit thicker cut, so I left it on for an hour, and then it's off to be rinsed and dried. So that's what I'm doing, is rinsing and drying the salt and sugar solution off. So once it's you've got the salt, the brine on the fish, it's got to be dried so that it'll take the smoke. If you smoke it right away, what'll happen is the smoke will stick to the salt, or I'm sorry, to the water instead of sticking to the fish. So you've got to dry it. I dried it for a couple of days in the refrigerator. Now I'm putting it in the smoker. You can see it's pretty stiff because it's dried out for a couple of days. It gets, I think it's called a pedicule. Excuse me for the pronunciation. Also, excuse me for the camera work. Good shot of your feet, Kent. But it's going in the smoker. Now, what I'm using for the cold smoke is I've got my smoker, my regular smoker, and I'm using that as a vessel to hold the fish. But what's actually going to be producing the smoke is a separate smoker, and you'll see that here in a second. It's actually off on the left, and it's got a tube going into the bottom of the smoker, and that creates a bit of a problem here in a little while. So I'm going to light up the smoker here in a second. The smoker is filled with pellets. I'm turning on the fan that blows the smoke down the tube and into the vessel, the smoker that I have where the fish are. But now I'm lighting the ember. So I'm lighting the ember on one side with my butane torch, and you can see the glow of the ember. And once that's caught, when you're initially starting it, you have the fan on high. So the fan's on high, and I'll light the other side. There's two sides to it, and so off it goes. It draws the smoke from the ember into where the fish are being smoked. And like I said, I've got the the tube from the smoker, from this smoker going into the bottom of the chamber of the other smoker where the fish are. And I fiddle fart with the butane torch, putting the safety on it. And I just check to see, you'll see the smoke. I'm pointing out the pipe in the bottom. And you can see the smoke coming out. If the camera angle was better, you'd see the smoke coming out the bottom. So now I'm going to check it about an hour and a half later, and lo and behold, there's no smoke. There was smoke. There was a lot of smoke before, but I went off and did a couple things, and about an hour and a half later, it wasn't smoking. And you can see the smoke is coming out of the embers. Now I fixed the problem, and you can see the smoke is coming out pretty good. And what the problem was is that the pipe, when you create smoke, you also as a byproduct create water, and the water was the pipe has a bow in it. As it goes up, it creates water that collects in the bottom of that bow, and the smoke couldn't get through. So that was a problem. I fixed that. It continued to be a problem, so I fixed that by having the pipe go in the top of the smoker instead of the bottom of the smoker, and that fixed the problem permanently. Now the tuna are coming out. I packaged them up, so I put them in. I vacuum sealed them and actually put them in the refrigerator for 2 days so that the smoke flavor could go into the tuna. Now, this was a surprise to me. I opened it up and I expected to be inundated with a smoke smell because they smelled pretty smoky when I put them away, and it hardly smelled smoky at all. And the flesh of the tuna is quite firm, but almost translucent, because remember, it's cold smoke, so it's not cooked at all. Now, I had done a salmon along with this, and when the salmon came out, the salmon had that distinctive salmon smell and a very smoky, but I treated them exactly the same. The tuna was very different. Now I'm using my filleting knife, and it worked quite well. It helps if you have the knife a little bit oiled, because the tuna is almost has like a cheese-like consistency to it. So it helps to have it almost lubricated with a little bit of oil. Now the taste surprised me. It wasn't fishy at all. It had a very slight tuna flavor, but I couldn't really place the flavor until my wife tried it and she said, "It tastes like prosciutto." And lo and behold, it did. It had a softer texture, but it tasted like prosciutto. And it has that clearish texture, or that clear look like prosciutto does, and it really does taste like prosciutto. So we got some sourdough bread and had it with sourdough bread, and it was really quite good. I had it with a little bit of sauerkraut also, and I enjoyed it immensely. So here I am. I'm putting a little bit of oil on the blade, and that actually helps in the cutting of the tuna. It doesn't tear quite as much. Now I'm not trying to get real thin slices of it, because you really don't need to. It's unlike prosciutto. it's not tough at all. It's very delicate, and like I said, it's almost translucent. It's like pure protein. It's amazing. It's amazing how it tastes. It surprised me tremendously the way it tastes. And I don't know if you can tell by the way it looks on that brown cutting board. Almost translucent. And not difficult to cut at all. And it's like I said, it's relatively firm but not hard. Very different than a hot smoked tuna. Very different. And I have hot smoked tuna. If you can refer to it, a separate video for that. And that's about all I've got for you.